So I've been playing Lucia here and there. I thought she's gonna be one of those skill and forget types of support, like the Astra, Yusuha, and Lucy. But she's actually trickier than that. Her kit is actually quite complicated, and that leaves us a lot of mystery to solve. Like, why do Dev change the design from the underboob Turno into the classic simple valet? Why does she look so fine on her art, but actually crazier than Bernice and Grace combined in the trailer? So we kind of got all kinds of tyrant here. We got the fox girl like Miyabi, the rabbit, the wolf, the panda, the bear, the shark, the rat, and a bigger wolf, the cat, and the cat. I don't know why she identified herself as a tiger. I think at this point the Z in Zenless Zone Zero stands for zoo. And now we got the goat. She's actually harder than Astra, Yusuha, and Jufufu, and slightly harder than Trigger if you're playing Trigger with the King of Summit set. But if you're familiar with Trigger, then you would have a much easier time learning her, cause their rotation shares some levels of similarity, even though it's not exactly the same. So she gives 30% critical damage buff, 20% damage buff, maybe about 700 to 900 sheer force attack. It really depends on how much HP you have on the Lucia. But as long as you have about 21,000 HP, I think you are totally fine. And it capped at 24,000 HP, so make sure to get all the HP main stat and the substat as much as you could, but I think 21,000 is fine. And that made her the only S tier dedicated Rupture support. And she also gives 5% max HP, which will increase all the Rupture sheer force attack. But this 5% max HP doesn't benefit on Lucia when it comes to buffing the team. So you gotta get 24,000 on the stat and not in the combat. I've tried it, it doesn't work. Lucia's mechanic is actually kind of complicated, but hey, you got me here. I have boiled down on how to play her into 3 things that you wanna do and 3 things that you don't wanna do. So the number 1 thing you wanna do is fill up her bar. As soon as her bar is depleted, I will talk about the details later. And second, you wanna unconditionally use skill or ultimate before the stun. And as soon as you could do 2 of these, you are playing Lucia at 90%. And the third thing is optional. You wanna use her skill as soon as her energy is full. Cause Lucia simply has too much energy, so you kind of wanna burn it anyway. And it's actually more like a min-max option, because her skill doesn't actually do much aside from filling up the bar. I will get into it later. And for 3 things that you don't wanna do is defensive assist or parrying the enemy, and dodge counter. And the second thing that you shouldn't do, you don't wanna swap her in during the dream state, unless you are about to stun the enemy. And it's a war crime to build energy regen on Lucia. It is totally useless. So when you are playing Lucia, the number 1 thing that you gotta prioritize is the dream bar. You gotta fill up this thing to the max. There's a lot of ways to fill up this dream bar, but there are only 3 ways that is actually practical. The chance is if you are using the parry or the dodge counter to fill up the dream point, you are more likely hindering your overall damage output. And again, when you are playing support, you wanna have them on field as little amounts of time as possible, cause you wanna leave those precious on field time for your DPS. The first way is simply basic attack at the start of the game until you get the basic 5, and you will enter the dream state getting all the buff, but not the one from the Moonlight Lullaby. And the second way is simply just skill and the basic attack, cause the follow-up basic attack is counted as basic 5, which would give 40% of the dream point. But unlike any other support, her skill doesn't activate the quick assist. It's the moment you enter the dream state when you fill up the dream bar. So don't expect that you could just skill and quick assist like any other support, cause she doesn't exactly works that way. It is filling up the bar that trigger quick assist. And the third way is to just simply use the ultimate. But one thing that makes her so different from any other support is that when she's in the dream state, which you could recognize that from the frame, it is looking dreamy, so you are in the dream state. And when you attack the enemy during the dream state, she would be doing an aftershock attack every 8 seconds. The aftershock attack would give you extra 20% team damage, and it lasts for 12 seconds. And she could do a total of 4 aftershock attacks for every dream state she enters. And during the dream state, if you're using skill or any other method that's supposed to recover your dream point, you're not gonna get any dream point. So you can't just occasionally swap her in and use the skill as soon as she has the energy, unless you deplete the dream bar up here before your next recover rotation. Except the ultimate. You could use the ultimate during the dream state and it would recover back to 100 point when you use all the dream point. But there's a problem with the uptime of her 4 set and the dream state. Like you see, her best 4 set Moonlight Lullaby would last 25 seconds after you use a skill or an ultimate. But to use up all the dream point, it took roughly about 28 to 32 seconds. Depends on how messed up is your rotation. And it's not less than 25 in practice. So you got this weird 5 to 8 seconds that you wouldn't be benefiting from the 4 set. And I would say forget about it. You don't want to play to fill up that 5 to 8 seconds by using the skill randomly. Instead, you want to use it right before you stun the enemy, so that you could get all the buff from the stun window. And the damage outside of the stun window ain't even that much of a deal in the first place. But if you want to fill up that 5 to 8 seconds, I would suggest you to use it when her energy is full. But when I'm actually playing the Deadly Assault, by just focusing on skill and ultimate before the stun, actually result in better score than I trying to fill up that 5 to 8 seconds. And I think it's because the skill in itself also takes a lot of animation time, and it's also easier to mess up your rotation because it's not exactly easy to do. And you will find yourself having too much energy when you are playing Lucia. So yeah, when you are building Lucia, 100% go for triple HP main stat on disc number 4, 5, and 6. And please, don't use energy on the disc number 6. It does absolutely nothing. It is not even an option. And for the same reason, 2 set energy from Swing Jazz is also not an option. I play Lucia with energy disc on disc number 6 and 2 set Swing Jazz, and I got 37k in this run. But after I swap into the full HP build, I got 45k. It is incomparable. And as for the substat, you wanna get as much HP as possible, especially the HP percentage. 1 HP percentage is equivalent to 2 flat HP. Flat HP would increase 4 shear force, while 3% HP would give you 9 shear force, 10% would give you 30 shear force, 30% would give you 91 shear force. So keep that in mind when you're building Lucia. You wanna have your max HP at about at least 21k, and the benefit would cap at 24,000k, which is equivalent to 900 shear force. But if for some reason you could get over 24,000k, you could use Woodpecker 2 set, or if you have crazy HP stat, then maybe crit rate main stat on the disc number 4. She would deal more damage, but the amounts of damage gonna be supplemental. So as for the W Wenjin, her signature weapon is not exactly a must pull, but if you wanna go for a vertical investment, signature would give roughly the same amounts of improvement as much as the Mindscape one. So prioritize the signature weapon first. The game ball is exceptionally good when you pair with Yixuan against the Ether enemy. The performance is actually pretty close behind the signature, and you would wanna go for Kaboom if you're playing any Rupture other than Yixuan, because they don't share the same attribute with the Lucia, unless the boss also has the Ether weakness. Weeping Cradle seems to be really good in the EN perspective, but not so much with the JP side. I don't know exactly why, but I think both of them are pretty close. So this is my build for the run, like game ball with the 2 set, HP set, and a loss of HP up to 23k. My E-Trans build, the crit rate is looking low, but I keep it low for the game ball. And this is my Qingyi build. It's looking like this. So now let's get into the practice. You do want to start the game with the basic attack until you hit the basic 5, cause that would fills up the dream point, so you could get some buff. But I think you're doing it mostly for the energy and not exactly for the buff, cause you would also get a loss of energy from the aftershock. And I do think that buffing outside of the stun window is not exactly a priority. So I EX with the Qingyi for the buff, and quickly do a skill to basic with the Lucia to get all the buff from the Moonlight Lullaby and the Dream State. And now DPSing with Yixuan. And I just kind of burn my skill over here because she already has her ultimate for the next Dream State. And generally after breaking the Miasmic Shield, you would have very small time window to apply for the buff. So I want to use the ultimate before the boss get into the stun. Just remember to unconditionally use her skill or her ultimate before the stun. And the same principle also apply with other support that has the similar buffing mechanics. Like you could say I chain attack with Qingyi here, so that she could get the buff from the King of Summit. But you could actually do it better than me if you're playing the manual chain attack. So you could use the skill instead of chain attack. So here we are about to enter the next stun. And I just popped the skill unconditionally for the Moonlight Lullaby set. And EX skill here with Qingyi for the buff. And DPSing for the last round. Yeah, and that sum up all the Lucia tips. I mean, like, Lucia is only viable for the Yixuan right now. I mean, like, you could also use the Manato. But I'm not sure how many of you got, like, the Mindscape 6 Manato. I'm not sure. But anyway. So I guess that's pretty much it. See you on the next round. Don't forget to like and sub. That's a pretty goofy wipeout, man.